the weapon handling. It's not good. What I don't agree with is it being a feature and not a failure. For this game to have good balancing is... Seems like I gotten on a lot of people's nerves with my last video. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Today, we're going to be talking about a video that someone made. It's about me and my criticism towards Ghost of Tabor, and I really wanted to make a response video to this because after getting some, thoughts and collecting them together into a more of a coherent way of thinking, I came to the conclusion there's a lot of things that I think I may have overstepped on in terms of criticizing Ghost of Tabor. So today we're here to review about this video, but also try to really explain in detail why I think the way I do. I suggest watching their video first before you watch this rest of the video because I think it's important to understand the context, and also watch my video about my critiques about Ghost of Tabor and then come back to see how I've really changed my thought process. But without further ado, let's go watch this video and get criticized. Before we get started, I want to clarify to everyone that this is all criticism, and I understand that this game is in early access, but that doesn't excuse from the developers from criticism or feedback.
This is an important distinction to make. Ghost of Tabor is still very early access, and we should keep that in mind whenever we're discussing or criticizing the game. It is not a finished product, and a lot of things are subject to change. Further in the video, he will often compare Tabor to other VR games like Pavlov. This is an unfair...
So I'm going to pause real quick. I much appreciate them acknowledging that my idea of criticism and a discussion was all just that. It wasn't anything that's threatening the developers or anything of the sort. So I really am glad that they acknowledged that because I think it was an important point to come across before I started the video, because I knew if I was going to make this video that I would need to elaborate further that I am not trying to do anything that's going to threaten people.
Pavlov is a classic VR shooter and has had 6 more years developed than Ghost of Tabor. Not only that, but the gameplay between both games are extremely different. But even still, Ghost of Tabor has some of the best weapon handling across all VR.
Was that Dick writing meme? Hold on, was that a Dick? Honestly, I think Ghost of Tabor is getting there, and I think it will get there within the next year and a half or so. The developers are working really hard. Wipe's coming up this February of 2024, so I'm super excited about it. But in terms of weapon handling, I still think it does need some work, but obviously it's early access. I shouldn't give it too much harsh criticism, and especially with a game like Pavlov or Contractors that have so much time on their hands to be able to fix all the issues that they've had originally. I do agree that it is a little bit of an unfair comparison because of the polished state of those games being and where they're at today. So I agree with that.
Scott, please add the SSGO8. Scott, add the SSGO8. Scott, please add the SSGO8.
Scott, please add the SSGO8. Please add the sniper rifle that fucking sucks ass in CSGO and every other game. Honestly, I don't think the weapon's not even that bad, to be honest with you. I do want more variety of weapons though, and obviously shotguns are still being kind of worked on, with the Saiga and the other automatic shotgun. I feel like shotguns are really hard to build in games like these or games in VR in general because the slide mechanic for a shotgun can be very finicky when developing for a game. So let's start off with the biggest issue at hand, the weapon handling. It's not good. Now look, I get trying to make the game realistic with weapon handling is nice and thoughtful, but I feel like there's some issues with that. See, ADSing, it just doesn't feel right.
You make a blanket statement that all the guns in Tabor are uncomfortable and don't feel right. I know you probably haven't experienced most of the guns Tabor has to offer, and not realize the more modern and expensive weapons feel a lot more comfortable to shoulder and to fire. Yes, certain guns feel gross to hold and hard to handle, but this is a feature, not a failure of the game's systems. If a gun is uncomfortable and hard to handle in real life, then these flaws are going to be translated in-game to the best of the developer's abilities. Guns with better real-life ergonomics are going to be easier to handle, and I think this is displayed in the game perfectly. You can easily see that the guns he's using to demonstrate this issue are extremely uncomfortable looking and dinky as hell. Tabor isn't a competitive shooter where every gun has its strength and is finely tuned and balanced. The game strives for a realistic experience, and that means some guns are going to be god-awful, but I think this only adds to the game's charm. and makes the satisfaction of progression so much greater.
So I'm going to agree and disagree on that. So I agree that the niche of using realistic weapons and understanding how the ergonomics are on a weapon and how difficult it is to hold a weapon, I totally understand that completely. I think that's a fair statement that you can give for a realistic shooter like Tabor. But what I don't agree with is it being a feature and not a failure, because I feel like if you make the weapons really shitty to begin with, I think a lot of people are going to turn away from that in the first place because of the way the weapons did handle. Now, I'm not saying that the weapons that I was using are not shitty. They definitely are. I'm not saying that it should be easy to hold these weapons. What I'm saying is it should be easy to aim down the sights without having those bugs and issues. But then again, it is early access, so I can't really give too much criticism towards that, and they're probably going to fix it soon. Balancing these weapons, I don't expect it to be a competitive shooter, but it is competitive as a shooter. See, I think Escape from Tarkov and any other extraction shooter, it's competitive because you're always going against players or you're going against AI that have weapons that can kill you instantly, right? So no matter the circumstances, it's going to be competitive. You have to fight to survive. And for this game to have good balancing is important. I think that like weapons like that are 9mm or like shorter caliber wise, I'm not saying that it should take 20 fucking bullets to kill a person. What I am saying though is that some weapons do need to be balanced enough to where you can use it by ADSing, but you can also use other weapons as well that if you wanted to, you could. You know, if I wanted to use an AK-47 over an M4, I should be able to do that, and I should still have the exact same result in killing players, whether that takes a little bit more bullets or takes less bullets. I just think that it should have a balance of feeling good to use at hand while also allowing other guns to be usable as well. That's why a lot of weapons in the game are one shot to the head and a lot of body shots to kill in general, whether that be using the Luddy, and it should have some way of allowing players to be able to use any weapon that they so choose and still be successful with it. Do you see that again? There's a glitch right there. Guys, like, what the fuck?
This is just one out of the many common bugs players have to deal with. Sights not being accurate, grenades flying through walls, and crashing are daily occurrences for me and the rest of the community. Tabor is a glitchy mess, and covering every stupid bug would be impossible, but these are important issues that need to be pointed out.
I much appreciate that input, because I feel like when people say skill issue or not acknowledging the issues at hand with like some glitches and bugs, I feel like then the developers would miss out on why it's happening or why bugs are happening in the first place when no one acknowledges about the bugs. So I much appreciate that you acknowledge that it is an issue and that ADSing can be an issue. I have another issue, and that is the amount of time it takes to level up traders. Each quest gives you a certain amount of XP to grind to level up with the traders, but the amount needed to get to level 2 is extraordinarily bad. This isn't just a Tabor issue, it's also an extraction shooter issue, which I'll get into later, but the point is that it takes so long to level up these traders.
Tabor's trader leveling can take forever, and oftentimes leave you in a monotonous loop of completing the same, most efficient quest over and over and over and over. I think more mature extraction shooters like Tarkov do missions much better. They have more objective-based missions that are unique and can only be completed once, and missions that force you to try different maps, guns, and playstyles. But no, Tabor's trader leveling should not be easy or quick. The main objective of Tabor is progression through leveling your traders, gaining expensive gear, and accumulating wealth. Making that process long-winded and difficult through grindiness and risk is what makes Tabor's trader leveling and the slow burn kind of progress so rewarding in the end.
Okay, so when I think extraction shooter, I think it's a looter shooter because it's what it is. The slow burn part and the process of it, I don't mind that. I really don't mind that in the slightest. I love grindy games to a degree. There's some games I don't like to grind on, but I feel like the reward system isn't as rewarding as people make it out to be because it is the same thing over and over again. The amount of money that you need, you can just get from just surviving in game. You don't need to do the quest, and I feel like that's something that makes the questing much worse, because there's no point of doing a quest for the money. You only do it for the experience, and then everyone else decides, you know what, the questing sucks. I maxed out all the traders. I don't need to do any questing anymore. It's just done. As if you were like to play Tarkov, where you actually get items, like you get body armor, helmets, weapons, ammo, and stuff to play around with. If Tabor implements that, where you get items from completing quests, I feel like that'd be much more rewarding and allows players to continue on playing the game over time. So yes, I do agree that there are certain things about the game that can have a lot of potential for it to be the best VR shooter out there. I mean, they're going to be adding in leaning, they're going to re-implement shotguns to be better to use, they're going to be doing a bunch of stuff, but I did make a mistake of criticizing Tabor and not to the right game. I think I was right to criticize the game. I think everyone has the right to criticize any game, but to criticize it and compare it to another game that isn't even close to the mechanics or core gameplay, I agree with that. But that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, and or night. And I just want to let you all know that I much appreciate the criticism and discussion that we have as a community, because it evolves to something far greater, which allows people to understand and do critical thinking about certain things, and to also realize what they like or don't like about certain things as well. I think discussion like this really helps out not only players, but also helps out for developers. That's it for me. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, and or night. Deuces. Take care, everyone.